Captain Hyun Lee stood on the bridge of the Indomitable for what might be the last time. Around him his crew worked quietly, efficiently. They had been fighting for weeks. Many were exhausted, but none showed it. This was the final battle. Valkyrie fleet entering weapons range, his tactical officer reported. Count confirms 1,200 ships. And us? Hyun asked. 200 ships plus planetary defenses. We're outnumbered 6-1. Better odds than last time, someone muttered. Hyun smiled slightly. It was true. The first battle they'd been outnumbered more than 6-1. But they'd also had surprise. Now the Valkyrie knew what humans could do. They would be ready. All ships. Admiral Park's voice came through. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Today we either secure humanity's future or we die trying. Make every shot count. Make them pay for every meter of space. Show them that humans don't break. Across the fleet, on 200 ships, crews echoed her words. Don't break, don't break, don't break. The Valkyrie fleet advanced like a tide of metal and death. Darrow sat in his command chair, watching Earth grow larger on his screens. So much trouble from such a small world. Today he would end it. Target their defensive platforms first, he ordered. Clear the approaches, then bombard the surface. Focus on their major cities. Sir, an officer hesitated. That will kill billions of civilians. Darrow's plates were dark with anger that had burned for weeks. Good. Let the galaxy see what happens to those who defy us. Let them remember this day with fear. Beside him, Nara felt sick. This wasn't warfare. This was genocide. But she was only one voice against her father's fury. The first shots were fired. Valkyrie energy beams reached across space, targeting human defensive platforms. The platforms fired back with railguns and missiles. Space between the two forces lit up with weapons fire. On Earth, in the command center deep underground, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold on multiple screens. Numbers scrolled past. Ship status, damage reports, casualty counts. They're throwing everything at our platforms, Admiral Wu Nam observed. Trying to clear a path. Let them, Park said. They're burning fuel and ammunition they can't replace. The longer they take to break through, the weaker they get. And if they do break through? Park didn't answer immediately. Finally, she said, then we activate Solar Strike. Wu's eyes widened. Admiral, that weapon is untested. The calculations show only a 60% chance of, if they break through, 60% is better than 0. Solar Strike. Engineer Do Yun Seo's most ambitious and terrifying creation. It was based on stellar engineering, the science of manipulating stars. The theory was simple. The execution was anything but. Human scientists had placed devices in the sun, devices that could destabilize its fusion processes. Not enough to make it go supernova, that was impossible for a star of Sol's size, but enough to create a massive coronal mass ejection. A directed burst of superheated plasma, aimed like a weapon. If it worked, it would wash across the Valkyrie fleet like the wrath of God. If it failed, it might destabilize Earth's sun permanently. 60% chance of success, 40% chance of destroying their own solar system. Park had hoped she wouldn't need to use it. But she'd learned long ago that hope was not a strategy. In orbit, the battle raged. Human ships danced and weaved, using every trick they'd learned. The Valkyrie fired with precision, but precision meant nothing when targets refused to sit still. Captain Jin Kang led another fighter strike, his pilots screaming through the gaps in enemy formations. More singularity missiles, more kamikaze drones, more chaos. Lieutenant Yoon's AI warfare teams hacked and disrupted Valkyrie systems. Not as effectively as the first battle, the Valkyrie had learned, but enough to cause confusion. Colonel Minho's Special Forces teams, hidden on ships scattered through the human fleet, waited for their moment. They had a special mission. One last surprise for the Valkyrie. Hours passed. The human defensive platforms began to fall. One by one, destroyed by overwhelming Valkyrie firepower. The path to Earth was opening. Planetary shields at maximum, an officer reported to Admiral Park. But they can't withstand sustained bombardment from 1,200 ships. I know. Park took a breath. Prepare solar strike. Deep in the sun, devices activated. Carefully placed magnetic fields began to shift. Fusion reactions started to spiral. It would take time, minutes that felt like hours. On the Velkari flagship, an officer called out, "Sir, we're detecting unusual activity in their star. Energy readings are off the charts." Darovel studied the data. Some kind of weapon? Unknown. But if these readings are accurate, it doesn't matter. Push forward. We're almost through their defenses. Nara looked at the readings. Her training in intelligence had taught her to recognize patterns, to see what others missed, and what she saw terrified her. "Father, we need to retreat now." "What?" "They're doing something to their son. If I'm reading this correctly." "Impossible. No species has that kind of technology." "No sane species," Nara said urgently. "Father, they're going to weaponize their own star. They're desperate enough to risk destroying their entire system just to stop us." For the first time, doubt crossed Darovel's face. He looked at Earth, at the sun beyond it, at the readings that showed something impossible happening. "That's madness," he whispered. "That's humanity," Nara replied. "Please, Father, order retreat, before it's too late." But pride is a terrible thing. Darovel had told the Council he would crush humanity. He had told the galaxy he would make an example. He had told himself that Velkari might was absolute. To retreat now would be to admit he was wrong. To admit that primitives had beaten him twice. "No," he said. "We're too close. We push through. Activate shields to maximum. All ships, full speed toward Earth. We end this now." The Velkari fleet surged forward. 1,200 ships at maximum burn, weapons blazing. In the command center, Admiral Park watched the solar readings reach critical threshold. "Admiral," the science officer said, voice shaking, "solar strike is ready. But I must warn you again if this goes wrong." "I know the stakes," Park said quietly. "All human ships, emergency retreat. Pull back to minimum safe distance. Now." Human ships broke off combat, burning hard away from Earth and the sun. The Velkari saw it as victory. The humans were fleeing. "Target Earth," Darovel commanded. "Fire everything." But then the sun screamed. A massive coronal ejection erupted from the solar surface. Not in all directions like a natural phenomenon. This one was directed, aimed, guided by human technology to flow along magnetic channels. A wave of superheated plasma, wider than Jupiter, hotter than any weapon ever created, erupted toward the Velkari fleet. "Evasive!" Darovel shouted, but it was too late. The plasma wave hit the leading edge of the Velkari fleet like a hammer. Ships didn't explode, they simply vaporized. Shields meant nothing against temperatures measured in millions of degrees. Armor meant nothing. 1,200 ships were reduced to 800 in seconds. Those that survived were damaged, systems overloaded, crews dead or dying from radiation. And in that moment, as Darovel stared at the destruction of his fleet, he finally understood. Humans didn't fight to win. They fought to survive. And there was no weapon, no tactic, no line they wouldn't cross to protect their home. "Father," Nara said quietly, "it's over." Darovel's hands shook. His command, his pride, his certainty, all destroyed in one terrible moment of human desperation. But before he could give the order to retreat, alarms blared. Human ships approaching. "They're not running, they're flanking us." Admiral Park's 200 ships had pulled back just enough to avoid the plasma wave. Now they swept in from both sides, fresh and ready to fight. The Velkari fleet was damaged, disorganized, and trapped between human forces and their own dying star. "This is Admiral Una Park to all Velkari ships," her voice broadcast across all channels. "You have one chance. Power down weapons, surrender, or we finish this." On the flagship, Darovel looked at his displays. 800 damaged ships. No supplies, no reinforcements. an enemy that had just weaponized a star, and still, pride whispered to him, "You are Valkyrie. You do not surrender." But then Nara did something that would be remembered in both species' histories. She pulled her sidearm and pointed it at her father. "No," she said simply. The entire bridge froze. "Daughter," Darovel began. "No," she repeated. "You've killed enough. You've lost enough. This ends now." "You would betray me? Your own father?" "I would save our people. Someone has to." She turned to the communications officer. "Broadcast this on all Valkyrie frequencies. I am Commander Naravel. I am assuming command. All Valkyrie ships will power down weapons and prepare to surrender." "You have no authority," Darovel snarled. "I have 800 ships full of crew who want to go home," Nara said. "And I have a human fleet that just showed they'd rather destroy their own system than lose. What do you have, father?" "Pride?" For a long moment, Darovel stared at his daughter, at the weapon pointed at him, at the screen showing his broken fleet. Then he slumped in his chair. Suddenly he looked old. Tired. "Do it," he whispered. Across the Valkyrie fleet, weapons powered down, ships vented their missile tubes, shields dropped. The greatest armada the Dominion had sent in 1,000 years surrendered to a species that had been in space for less than a century. The lights inside the massive space station were too bright for human eyes, but Captain Hana Kim refused to squint. She stood straight in her simple gray uniform as dozens of alien eyes studied her. Some of those eyes were compound like insects, others glowed with inner light. A few belonged to creatures that looked like walking crystals. Hana had trained for this moment for 5 years. Humanity was finally joining the Galactic Coalition, a union of 12 different alien species. For 50 years, the aliens had watched Earth from a distance. Now they were ready to welcome humans as equals. "Your species is most unusual," said Ambassador Velron. The insect-like alien clicked his mandibles as he spoke. His voice came through a translator device on Hana's collar. "You have no natural armor. No hard shell. No crystalline structure." "How do you survive?" Hana smiled politely. "We manage." Behind her stood Commander Tay Park, her security chief. He was a large man with scars on his hands and a calm expression. Next to him were 2 younger humans, Jin and Yuna. All 4 wore the same simple uniforms. No armor, no shields, just cloth and determination. General Thex approached them. He was a Voxtar, a species made of living crystal that refracted light into rainbow patterns. His body clicked and chimed as he moved. In his hands, he carried 4 silver suits. "These are survival suits," Thex said. His translated voice sounded like wind chimes. "All Coalition personnel wear them. They protect against vacuum, radiation, temperature extremes, and physical damage. They are required." Tay stepped forward and examined one of the suits. It was thick and heavy, with multiple layers of protection. He looked at Hana, then back at the general. "Thank you," Tay said, "but we'll pass." The room went silent. Every alien stopped moving. Ambassador Velron's antennae twitched rapidly, a sign of confusion or alarm. "You will pass?" Thex repeated. "These are not optional. Space is dangerous. This station has had 3 hull breaches in the past year. Without protection, you will die." "We understand the risks," Hana said calmly. "But humans need to move freely. Those suits are too heavy, too slow. We'll take our chances." Thex's crystalline face couldn't show expressions, but his body language radiated disbelief. The other aliens whispered among themselves. The Quilathi delegates, with their natural exoskeletons, looked at each other in confusion. The Nalcine, amphibious beings who wore water-filled suits at all times, seemed horrified. "You are either very brave or very foolish," Thex said finally. He took the suits away. The welcoming ceremony continued. The humans were shown their quarters, given access codes, and introduced to various coalition officials. Everyone was polite, but Hana could feel their doubt. The aliens thought humans were weak, fragile, too soft to survive in space. 3 hours into the ceremony, the alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the station. A computerized voice announced in multiple languages, "Hull breach in Section 7. Ravager attack detected. All personnel to combat stations." The aliens immediately ran in different directions. Some headed to armories to get their weapons. Others rushed to sealed chambers where their emergency armor was stored. The Kalathi soldiers stopped at checkpoints to have their exoskeletons reinforced. The Voxtar activated energy shields that hummed around their crystal bodies. Hana didn't hesitate. Tay, Jin, Yuna with me. We go to Section 7. Captain, we don't have weapons, Jin pointed out. He was young, barely 25, but he'd been a soldier before joining the diplomatic corps. We'll get some on the way, Hana said. She started running toward the breach. The Ravagers were a species that the Coalition had rejected. They were violent, territorial, and had been waging war against the Coalition for 30 years. They wore dark armor and used weapons that fired superheated plasma. They were dangerous. Hana and her team reached an emergency weapons locker. She punched in an override code and grabbed 4 rifles. They were heavy, designed for aliens with greater strength than humans, but they would work. The 4 humans ran toward Section 7. They passed Coalition soldiers still putting on their armor. A Nalzine officer shouted at them. Stop, you need protection. Section 7 has lost atmosphere. We know, Tay called back, not slowing down. The corridor ahead was chaos. A massive hole had been torn in the station's hull. Emergency barriers flickered on and off, trying to seal the breach. Ravagers in their black armor poured through the gap, firing weapons in all directions. 3 Coalition soldiers in full armor were pinned down behind a barricade. Hana assessed the situation in seconds. The emergency barriers were on a cycle, sealing for 10 seconds, then opening for 5 seconds to let the damaged power system reset. During those 5 seconds, the corridor was exposed to space. No air, no pressure. Instant death for anyone unprotected. We go during the open cycle, Hana said. When the barrier drops, we rush them. We'll have 5 seconds. Yuna stared at her. 5 seconds in vacuum? You can hold your breath that long, Hana said. It wasn't a question. The barrier flickered and dropped. Hana ran forward into airless space. Her lungs immediately protested. Her skin felt like it was burning and freezing at the same time. Her eyes hurt. But she kept running, rifle raised. Tay was right behind her, then Jin, then Yuna. All 4 humans sprinted through vacuum without hesitation. The Ravagers saw them coming and opened fire. Plasma bolts lit up the airless corridor. Hana felt one graze her arm. Pain exploded across her skin, but she didn't stop. She fired her rifle. The recoil was wrong in 0 pressure, but her shot hit a Ravager in the chest. 5 seconds passed. The barrier snapped back into place. Air rushed into the corridor. Hana gasped, filling her lungs. Her arm was burned badly, skin blackened and bleeding. She ignored it and kept firing. The 4 humans had crossed 50 meters and taken positions behind debris. Now they had cover and could fight properly. Tay's shot took down another Ravager. Jin and Yuna provided suppressing fire while Hana moved to a better angle. Behind them, the Coalition soldiers finally arrived. They stared through their armored visors at the 4 humans who had just run through hard vacuum in nothing but cloth uniforms. One of them, a Voxtar, spoke over the open channel. Impossible. The humans are still alive. They crossed vacuum without armor. Hana didn't respond. She was too busy fighting. The Ravagers were retreating now, falling back toward their entry point. Coalition reinforcements arrived, cutting off their escape. Within 10 minutes, the battle was over. The humans stood among the wreckage, breathing hard. Hana's arm was badly burned. Jin had cuts on his face from flying debris. Tay's uniform was scorched. Yuna was limping slightly. But all 4 were alive and functional. General Thex arrived with a medical team. He looked at the humans, then at the vacuum-exposed corridor, then back at the humans. You should be dead, he said quietly. Hana looked down at her burned arm. Yeah, she said. We get that a lot. The medical team treated their injuries. The aliens worked quickly but kept exchanging glances. Their scanners showed the humans had been exposed to vacuum. Their bodies should have been destroyed. But here they stood, making jokes and checking their weapons. Ambassador Velrin approached Hana as the medics finished. His insect face was impossible to read, but his voice sounded different. Respectful. Perhaps, he said slowly, we have underestimated your species. Hana smiled. Her arm was wrapped in bandages, but she felt fine. Perhaps. That night, reports about the incident spread throughout the Coalition. The soft species without armor had walked into battle where armored soldiers feared to go. The humans had crossed vacuum and survived. They had fought and won. In his office, General Thex reviewed the footage multiple times. Each time he saw the same thing. 4 humans running through airless space without protection, fighting through injuries that would kill any Coalition species. and refusing to stop until the enemy was defeated. He wrote a single line in his report: "Recommend immediate combat assessment of human personnel." The coalition had welcomed humanity as equals. But watching those four figures running through vacuum without armor, Thex realized they might be something more. Something the galaxy had never seen before. Something indestructible. The transport ship touched down on Kepler 442b in a storm of red dust. Lieutenant Dae Song grabbed his medical kit and followed Sergeant Mina Choi down the ramp. Behind them came 40 human soldiers, all wearing simple combat uniforms and carrying standard rifles. Sub-Commander Grix was waiting for them on the landing pad. He was a Nalcine, a species that looked like a cross between a fish and a human. His body was enclosed in a transparent suit filled with water. Through the liquid, Dae could see his gills moving and his eyes watching the humans with obvious concern. "You are the human reinforcements?" Grix's translated voice bubbled slightly. "Where is the rest of your regiment?" "This is it," Mina said. She was a short woman with sharp eyes and 3 scars across her left cheek. 40 soldiers. We're ready to deploy." Grix's fins fluttered inside his suit. 40, we requested 200. "And where are your armor suits? Your environmental gear? Your medical support units?" Dae lifted his kit. "I'm the medical support. 1 medic?" Grix looked like he might faint inside his water suit. "This is a Category 4 hostile environment. The atmosphere has toxic pockets. Temperature swings from 40 degrees to -40 in hours. The Ravagers use chemical weapons. You need full environmental suits with armor plating." Mina pulled on her gloves. "We've got thermal underlayers and respirators." "That'll work. That will work," Grix repeated. No, that will not work. You will be requesting evacuation within 3 hours. I have seen this before. Species think they are tough. Then the cold hits or the chemicals burn their skin and they beg to leave." "We won't beg," Mina said simply. She turned to her soldiers. "Standard deployment. Check your gear and fall in." Grix was still protesting when the first alarm sounded. Ravagers had been spotted in the northern canyon, moving toward the mining facility. All units were ordered to intercept. The coalition forces assembled quickly. Dae watched as Quilathi soldiers checked their exoskeletons, making sure each piece of natural armor was reinforced with metal plating. Voxtar warriors activated their energy shields. A group of massive Varkon, reptilian beings who wore heavy power armor, tested their weapon systems. The humans just checked their rifles and started walking. The northern canyon was 15 kilometers away. The temperature was dropping fast as Kepler's sun set behind the mountains. Dae watched his breath turn to frost in the air. Around him, coalition soldiers were activating their suit heaters. "Temperature is now -20, Grix announced over the radio. "-30 in 10 minutes. All units switched to full environmental seals." Dae pulled his thermal underlayer tighter and kept walking. Next to him, a young soldier named Wu was shivering slightly but maintaining pace. The humans moved in a loose formation faster than the armored coalition forces. "Human unit, respond," Grix called. "Are your suits functioning?" "We're fine," Mina replied. "No suits, remember? You're in -30 temperature and cloth uniforms." "-32 now," Dae corrected, checking his scanner. "We're fine." They reached the canyon as the temperature hit -40. The coalition forces were moving slowly now, their armor stiff from the cold. The Nalcine had to increase power to their suit heaters to keep the water from freezing. The Voxtar were clicking slower, their crystal bodies contracting in the cold. The humans were cold, very cold, but they could move. They could fight. The Ravagers appeared at the far end of the canyon, a dark mass of armored figures. They started firing immediately. Energy bolts lit up the frozen air. "Coalition forces advance by sections," Grix ordered. "Maintain shield integrity." The armored soldiers moved forward slowly. Their heavy suits were designed for protection, not speed. They would reach the Ravagers eventually, but it would take time. Mina made a decision. "Dae, take 10 soldiers and go left. Use the rocks for cover. We'll flank them." "That route goes through the toxic pocket," Grix warned. "Atmospheric sensors show heavy chemical concentration. Your respirators won't be enough." "We'll manage," Mina said. She was already moving. Dae led his team to the left, scrambling over frozen rocks. The terrain was brutal. Sharp stones cut through gloves. Ice made every step dangerous. Behind him, Wu slipped and fell hard. Dae heard the crack of impact. "Wu, you good?" Wu stood up slowly. Blood was running from his nose and his left arm hung at a wrong angle. Broken. I'm good, sir. Keep moving. They entered the toxic pocket. Day's eyes immediately started burning. The chemicals in the air were designed to attack organic tissue. His respirator filtered most of it, but not all. He could taste something bitter and wrong with every breath. A Quilathi soldier who had followed them suddenly stopped. I cannot proceed. My suit sensors indicate lethal exposure. Turning back, the humans kept going. Their eyes watered. Their throats burned. Their skin itched where the chemicals touched exposed areas. But they didn't stop. They emerged on the Ravager's flank. The enemy hadn't expected anyone to come through the toxic zone. Mina's team hit them from the front. Day's team hit them from the side. The Ravagers were caught between two human forces and the slowly advancing Coalition army. A Ravager blade caught Wu across the chest. It was a shallow cut, not deep, but it split his uniform and drew a line of blood. Wu shot the Ravager twice and kept fighting. His broken arm dangled uselessly, but his other hand was steady on his rifle. Day saw another human, a soldier named Sora, take a plasma bolt to the shoulder. The heat burned through her uniform and charred the skin underneath. She screamed, fell to one knee, and then stood back up. She switched her rifle to her other hand and kept shooting. The battle lasted 40 minutes. When it was over, 15 Ravagers were dead or captured. The rest had retreated. The humans regrouped. Day went from soldier to soldier, checking injuries. Wu had a broken arm, broken nose, and the chest wound. Sora had a third-degree burn on her shoulder. 3 others had chemical burns on their skin. 2 had twisted ankles from the rough terrain. All of them were standing. All of them were ready to keep going. The Coalition soldiers arrived 10 minutes after the fighting stopped. They had been moving as fast as their armor allowed, but the humans had won the battle before they got there. Grix approached Mina. His water suit was steaming slightly from the heater working overtime. I watched the entire engagement. You crossed the toxic zone. Your soldier fought with a broken arm. Another kept fighting after taking a plasma bolt. This is not possible. It happened, Mina said. She was breathing hard and her face was red from chemical exposure, but she stood straight. Our medical scanners show your people absorbed enough chemical exposure to kill a Quilathi, enough cold to freeze a Nalcine, enough physical damage to stop a Voxtar. Yet you are all standing. Day finished wrapping Sora's shoulder. We're tough. Comes from living on Earth. Earth must be a nightmare world, Grix said quietly. Day thought about Earth's hurricanes, earthquakes, volcanoes, diseases, and predators. Yeah, he agreed. It kind of is. That night, Grix filed his report. He tried to describe what he had seen, but the words felt inadequate. Humans had done the impossible. They had fought in conditions that should have killed them. They had won when they should have failed. He wrote, "Human soldiers operate outside normal biological parameters. They absorb damage, continue fighting through injuries, and tolerate environmental extremes that would eliminate any coalition species. Recommend full combat certification and immediate deployment to critical zones." He paused, then added, "They do not need armor. Their bodies are the armor." In the human barracks, Day was treating the last of the injuries. Wu sat patiently while Day set his broken arm. "That hurt?" Day asked. "Yeah," Wu said, "but I've had worse. Remember that training exercise in Alaska? This is nothing." The other humans laughed. They were comparing injuries, telling stories, acting like the battle had been a minor inconvenience. Mina watched them from the doorway. She thought about Grix's shocked expression, about the Coalition soldiers in their heavy armor moving so slowly, about how the aliens thought humans were fragile. They had no idea. Humans had grown up on a planet that tried to kill them every day. They had evolved to survive disease, predators, starvation, extreme weather, and each other. They had been fighting to survive since before they could walk upright. This was just another day. Mina smiled and closed the door. Tomorrow there would be another battle. More cold, more chemicals, more injuries. And the humans would walk into it without hesitation, without armor, without fear. Because that's what humans did. They survived. Dr. Hai Li stood in the observation room of the Coalition's most advanced medical research station. Through the glass, she could see Captain Bin Ryu sitting calmly on an examination table. He was shirtless, showing the scars that covered his chest and arms. Some were from battles. Others were from accidents during training. A few were from childhood injuries that had healed decades ago. Chief Researcher Pryla circled the table, her feathers ruffling with agitation. She was a Kestri, a bird-like species with brilliant blue and gold plumage. Her species was known for their intelligence and their careful, methodical approach to science. Right now, she looked frustrated. "The scans make no sense," Prilla said through her translator. "Your bones are denser than any species we have recorded. Your muscle tissue repairs itself at an incredible rate. Your skin has multiple layers that seal wounds automatically. And these scars. You have survived injuries that should have killed you," Ben smiled. "I'm just lucky, I guess." "This is not luck," Prilla snapped. "This is biology that should not exist." Hai stepped into the examination room. She had been working with Prilla for 3 weeks, and the alien scientist was becoming more upset with every test. The Coalition wanted answers. They wanted to know how humans survived without armor. They wanted to understand why humans could fight through injuries that would kill any other species. "Let's try the temperature test again," Hai suggested. Ben was moved to a climate-controlled chamber. Prilla activated the controls and the temperature began to drop. 10 degrees. 20 degrees. 30 degrees below zero. Ben's skin turned red and goosebumps covered his arms, but he sat still. At -40, he started shivering violently. At -50, Hai called a stop to the test. Ben walked out of the chamber, rubbing his arms. "That was cold. You should be dead," Prilla said flatly. At -30, most Coalition species begin to shut down. At -40, tissue damage becomes permanent. You sat in -50 and walked away with no injuries. "Humans are from a cold part of space," Ben said. "We're used to it." "No," Prilla said. She pulled up a star chart. "Earth's location is not particularly cold. Let me see your planet's environmental data." I provided the files. Prilla opened them and began reading. Her feathers stood up straight. Her eyes widened. She made a sound like a bird's distress call. "This cannot be accurate," Prilla said. "These temperature ranges, the weather patterns, the geological activity. If this data is correct, Earth is classified as a death world." "A what?" Ben asked. Hugh had heard the term before. Death worlds are planets rated Class 10 or higher on the Coalition survival difficulty scale. They're planets that are extremely hostile to life. Most intelligent species don't evolve on death worlds. They evolve on safer planets and then colonize the dangerous ones later. "Earth is rated Class 12, Prilla said, still staring at the data. "The highest rating on record. The only other Class 12 planet in Coalition space is uninhabited, because nothing can survive there. Yet you claim Earth has 8 billion humans living on it?" 8.2 billion, Hai corrected. Prilla pulled up more data. "Your planet's gravity is 1.3 times the Coalition standard. Your atmosphere is 21% oxygen, which is highly corrosive. Your weather includes hurricanes with winds over 300 kilometers per hour. You have active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, tsunamis. And according to this data, you have over 1 million species of organisms that produce toxins harmful to humans." "Sounds about right," Ben said. "How do you survive?" Prilla demanded. "How does any species survive on such a planet?" Hai pulled up more files. "We evolved there. Our bodies adapted, thick bones to handle the high gravity, multiple skin layers to protect against the corrosive oxygen, efficient healing to recover from the constant injuries, high pain tolerance because pain is a daily experience. We didn't have a choice. Earth forced us to become strong or die." Prilla was reading through the medical files now. "You have records of humans surviving falls from great heights, surviving attacks from Earth's predators, surviving diseases that should be fatal. One human survived being struck by lightning 7 times. Another survived being frozen in snow for several hours. These are not isolated cases. These are common occurrences. Life on Earth is dangerous," Hai admitted. "We lose people, but most of us survive. Most of us grow up, have children, and live full lives. We just accept that danger is part of existence." Prilla sat down, her legs suddenly weak. "The Coalition has never encountered a species like yours. Every other intelligent species evolved on Class 5 or Class 6 worlds. Safe planets with stable weather, low gravity, and few dangerous predators. We developed armor and technology to protect ourselves from the rare dangers we faced. But you evolved on a planet that actively tried to kill you every single day. You became living armor." Captain Hana entered the room. She had been observing from a secondary station. "So now you understand. Humans don't need armor because we've been surviving without it for millions of years. Earth made us this way." "What else is on your planet?" Prilla asked. "What other dangers do you face?" Hai brought up a new file. "Earth has 37 species of poisonous snakes, 19 species of poisonous spiders, insects that carry deadly diseases, plants that can kill with a single touch, ocean creatures with venom strong enough to kill in minutes. And that's just the obvious threats. We also have microscopic threats, bacteria, viruses, parasites. A human immune system fights off dozens of potential infections every single day. Pryla was taking notes frantically. Your immune system, of course. That explains the chemical tolerance we observed on Kepler. Your bodies are designed to fight off toxins because you encounter them constantly. My grandmother lived to be 97, Ben said. She survived 3 types of cancer, 2 heart attacks, and a car accident that crushed her legs. She healed from all of it, lived another 20 years. Impossible, Prilla whispered. For you, maybe, Ben said. For us, that's just a tough life. Pryla ran more tests over the next week. She tested human response to radiation, pressure changes, electrical shocks, and physical trauma. Every test showed the same thing. Humans were built to survive. Their bodies had redundant systems. If one organ failed, others could compensate. If skin was damaged, it healed. If bones broke, they grew back stronger. She tested Ben's pain tolerance. She used carefully calibrated instruments to cause measured amounts of pain. Ben's response was minimal. He could feel the pain, but it didn't stop him from functioning. His brain had learned to work through pain because pain was normal. On my world, Pryla said quietly, if we feel significant pain, we stop moving. We wait for help. We cannot function, but you can fight, think, and make decisions while in severe pain. You have to, Ben said. If you stop every time something hurts on Earth, you don't survive. The final test was psychological. Pryla wanted to understand human fear responses. She put Ben in situations designed to trigger panic, confined spaces, loud noises, simulated danger. Ben's heart rate increased, his breathing quickened, but he didn't panic. He assessed each situation calmly and took action. Your fear response is different, Pryla observed. Most species experience fear and become paralyzed. They flee or freeze. But humans experience fear and keep moving forward. Fear is just information, Hai explained. It tells us something is dangerous. But we've learned that running from every danger means we don't survive. Sometimes you have to walk toward the scary thing and deal with it. Pryla completed her report after 4 weeks of testing. She presented it to the Coalition Council in person. The room was filled with representatives from all 12 Coalition species. They listened in silence as she explained her findings. Humans evolved on a Class 12 death world, Pryla concluded. They have survived conditions that would eliminate any other known species. Their bodies are adapted for extreme survival. They heal rapidly. They tolerate pain. They function through injuries. They resist toxins, temperature extremes, and physical trauma. They do not need armor because their biology is armor. Admiral Thek spoke first. What do you recommend? I recommend we stop treating humans as fragile, Pryla said. They are the opposite. They are the most durable species we have ever encountered. They should be deployed in situations where armor and shields are insufficient. They should be sent to places where other species cannot survive. You want to send them to die? Someone protested. No, Pryla said firmly. I want to send them where they can live. Earth taught them to survive the impossible. We should use that gift, the council voted. The classification was changed. Humans were no longer labeled as unprotected, species requiring special accommodation. They were now designated as Class A survival, specialist extreme environment capable, IA. And Hana watched the vote from the observation gallery. When it was done, Hana turned to Hay. They finally understand, Hana said. Do they? Hai wondered. I'm not sure any species that didn't grow up on Earth can truly understand what it means to survive there. They can see the data. They can run the tests. But they didn't live it. Maybe that's okay, Hana said. They don't need to understand. They just need to stop underestimating us. Down in his quarters, Ben was packing his gear. He had new orders. A mission to a hostile planet where the Coalition needed someone who could survive without armor. Commander Hyun Nam checked his rifle one last time as the dropship screamed through Helios 7's atmosphere. Around him, 49 other humans did the same. They were the first wave. 250 more would follow in subsequent drops. The ship shook violently. Dominion anti-aircraft fire lit up the sky. Hyun had flown through worse during Earth's wars, but this was still rough. Next to him, Corporal Wu gripped his harness. His left arm was fully healed now, months after Kepler. The bones had grown back stronger. 30 seconds to drop, the pilot announced. The shields surrounding Helios 7 were visible through the viewport, massive, domes of energy that would vaporize any coalition armored, soldier or shielded vehicle. But human bodies absorbed energy differently. The shields would hurt, but they wouldn't kill. Probably 10 seconds. Hyun stood. The 49 soldiers behind him stood as well. The rear ramp opened. Wind screamed into the cabin. Below them was a nightmare landscape of Dominion fortifications. Go! Hyun jumped. He fell through the shield dome. Pain exploded across every nerve. It felt like being struck by lightning and frozen at the same time. His muscles locked. His vision went white, but he had survived worse. Every human had. Earth had made them immune to things that should kill them. He hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb impact. His body screamed protest, but nothing was broken. Around him, other humans were landing, getting up, and moving to cover. They had dropped 50 kilometers from the main fortress in hostile swamp terrain that coalition intelligence said was impossible to cross. The intelligence was wrong. Humans had crossed impossible terrain for thousands of years. Status report, Hyun called over the radio. Wave 1, all accounted, someone replied. 2 broken legs, 1 dislocated shoulder. All still mobile. 47 combat-effective soldiers, 2 injured but functional. Good enough. They moved through the swamp. The water was toxic, designed to melt through coalition armor. It burned human skin on contact, but the burns were superficial. The soldiers had treated worse wounds at home. Yuna, now a lieutenant, took point. She had the best eyes in the unit. Dominion patrol ahead, she whispered over the radio. 10 soldiers in power armor. Hyun made quick calculations. 10 armored enemies versus 50 unarmored humans. In coalition doctrine, this would be suicide. In human doctrine, it was acceptable odds. Flank left and right. Center team provides suppressing fire. Go. The humans split into 3 groups and moved silently through the swamp. The Dominion soldiers never saw them coming. Their armor made them confident but slow. By the time they realized they were under attack from 3 directions, half were already down. The battle lasted 90 seconds. 10 Dominion soldiers dead. Humans casualties. Wu took a plasma bolt to the leg. It burned through his uniform and charred the flesh underneath. He fell, screamed once, and got back up. I'm good, he gasped. Keep moving. They moved. For 2 days, Hyun's team fought through Dominion patrols, toxic terrain, and weather that dropped to -30 at night. They slept in shifts, ate compressed rations, and kept advancing. Behind them, other human teams were landing and spreading out across the planet. Back in orbit, Captain Hana and General Sol coordinated the assault from the command ship. Admiral Thex watched the battle displays with fascination. The humans were doing exactly what they said they would. Going places armored soldiers couldn't reach. Fighting through injuries that should stop them. And refusing to quit. Wave 7 has landed, Hana reported. All teams are advancing on schedule. The Dominion is bringing reinforcements to the fortress, Thex observed. They know something is wrong. Let them come, Sul said calmly. The more they focus on the fortress, the less they watch for humans in the swamp. On the ground, Hyun's team reached the fortress perimeter on schedule. The walls were 50 meters high and lined with automated weapons. The main gate was sealed. In coalition doctrine, this would require heavy artillery and armored assault vehicles. Hyun looked at the sewage system outlet. It was a 30-centimeter pipe that dumped toxic waste into the swamp. No armored soldier could fit through it. No other species would even try. Sora, you're smallest. Can you make it? Sora was the soldier who had taken a plasma bolt to the shoulder on Kepler. She looked at the pipe and nodded. Yeah, give me 10 minutes. She stripped off her gear, keeping only a knife and a small explosive charge. Then she crawled into the toxic sewage pipe. Inside was hell. The chemicals burned her skin. The smell was overwhelming. The pipe was barely wide enough to crawl through. But Sora had grown up in Mumbai, where she had learned to squeeze through tight spaces in collapsed buildings after earthquakes. This was just another tunnel. She emerged inside the fortress covered in chemical burns and toxic waste. She found a maintenance panel and planted the explosive. 30 seconds later, the main gate's control system exploded. The gate opened. Hyun and his team rushed inside. Alarm sirens wailed. Dominion soldiers poured out of barracks, but they were confused and disorganized. They had expected a frontal assault, not an infiltration. The humans hit them hard and fast. No formations, No defensive positions, just pure aggression and speed. Jin, who had been at the original station battle, led a squad up the main tower. Yuna's team secured the armory. Mina, who had fought on Kepler, coordinated 3 teams to push toward the shield generators. Day set up a field medical station in a captured storage room. Within minutes, he had patients. Burns, broken bones, plasma wounds, chemical damage. He worked quickly, stabilizing the worst cases and sending the rest back to fight. "How bad is it?" Lieutenant Nari asked. She had a deep gash across her forehead that was bleeding into her eyes. "You need 12 stitches, Day said. "Can I fight with 12 stitches? "You'll fight with or without them, so I might as well give them to you." He stitched her wound while she reloaded her rifle. 3 minutes later, she was back in combat. The battle for the fortress was brutal. The Dominion commander, Lord Executor Vren, wore a powered exosuit that made him nearly invincible. He killed 3 humans in the first engagement. Captain Bin, who had been the test subject for Pryla's research, confronted him in the main corridor. "You cannot win," Vren announced through his suit's speakers. "I am armored. You are meat." Bin shot him 3 times. The bullets bounced off. Vren laughed and returned fire. Bin dodged, but the plasma bolt caught his side. He felt ribs crack and skin burn. He fell to one knee. Vren advanced, confident in his victory. Bin saw a window behind Vren. He gathered his strength and charged. Vren was surprised. Humans were supposed to stay down when injured. Bin hit him at full force, and both of them went through the window. They fell 5 stories. Vren's armor absorbed most of the impact. Bin's body didn't have that luxury. He hit the ground hard. Both legs shattered. His left arm broke. Something in his back screamed wrong. He should have been dead or unconscious. But humans didn't stop when hurt. Bin crawled toward Vren, dragging his broken body across the concrete. Vren was stunned. His armor systems scrambled from the fall. Bin pulled a plasma torch from his belt, a tool, not a weapon, used for cutting metal. He crawled onto Vren's chest and started cutting through the armor seams. "Impossible," Vren gasped. "You are broken. You should be dead." "Yeah," Bin agreed, still cutting. "I get that a lot." He cut through the final seam and drove his knife into the gap. Vren stopped moving. By the time Day reached him, Bin was unconscious from pain and blood loss. But he was still breathing. His body was already starting to heal. Day called for immediate evacuation. The shield generators fell one by one. Yun's team reached the main control center and set demolition charges. The timer started, 5 minutes until detonation. "All teams withdraw," Hyun ordered. They fought their way back out of the fortress. Dominion soldiers tried to stop them, but the humans were too fast, too aggressive. They moved like a storm through the fortress, leaving destruction in their wake. The explosions lit up the planet's night sky. The shield generators collapsed. Immediately, coalition ships in orbit began their bombardment of Dominion positions. Hyun gathered his team for a final count. 43 humans dead, 97 wounded but mobile. 260 still combat effective out of the original 300. By coalition standards, these casualties were catastrophic. By human standards, it was an acceptable price for victory. Captain Hana watched the battle reports from orbit. The fortress had fallen. The shields were down. The Dominion forces were in full retreat. The humans had won. Admiral Thek stood next to her. "I watched every moment," he said quietly. "Your people absorbed damage that would destroy a Voxtar. They fought through injuries that would kill a Quilathi. They crossed terrain that would stop a Varkon. And they won. We told you we would," Hana said simply. General Sol was already planning the next operation. Word of Helios 7 was spreading through coalition space. The humans had done the impossible. They had taken a fortress that armored soldiers couldn't approach. They had proven that flesh and determination were sometimes stronger than shields and armor. War Master Krell contacted Sol directly. The massive Varkon appeared on the viewscreen, his scaled face serious. "I did not believe humans could succeed," Krell admitted. "I was wrong. I formally request human forces for 12 additional operations. We have targets that require your unique capabilities.